Hello, everyone. Can you all see me? I see people in the chat saying, Mommy. I see Grace. Hi, Grace. Yeah, if you want to just put in where you're tuning in from or how's your day going so far, your energy levels, because I know it's hackathon weekend, so it might be a little hectic and a little crazy. And maybe you pulled an all-nighter, maybe you didn't, but I'd love to hear your energy levels, 1 through 10, 10 being you're super hyped, 1 being like you need more sleep and you'd love a nap right now. But yeah, feel free to type in what your energy level looks like, and then we'll just get started in a minute. We'll just wait for people to grab water or reconvene from the last session. I see 100,000. Wow, Henrika. I need that type of energy, 100,000. That's something I need. Okay, let's still waiting on a few people to join in, but we'll get started very shortly. Today we're going to talk about how to pitch a winning hackathon project. So from slide deck to arranging your thoughts to what it really takes to like pitch effectively, like speaking tips, just to best, give your pitch so people believe in your idea. And I think it's very important not only for your hackathons, but even when you're in your career and you're trying to pitch something to your senior up. So I think this is going to be super valuable for anyone listening. Hi, I'm excited too. But let's get started. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to type in the chat your questions, because I will definitely be answering them at the very end. Ooh, hi, Ashna. But yeah, let's get started. Just for everyone who's joining in who doesn't know me, hi, my name is Anand Patel. I'm an incoming product manager at Microsoft. I will be starting this summer. Before that, I've also won the fall 2020 Protothon and Product Buds, and now I'm giving back to the community by arranging this year's upcoming Protothon. So I'll definitely be super excited for some of you to be joining that event as well. But yeah, moving on. Oops. There we go. So today we're going to talk about what makes a good pitch, how to structure your thoughts, creating effective slide decks, and then putting everything together. So not only your structured thoughts, but like your deck, and making sure everything comes into one cohesive pitch. So let's just get right into it. What makes a good pitch? And when we're thinking about what makes a good pitch, I think sometimes the best way to realize what something good is that you point out what's bad. So what are some common pitch pitfalls? And if you have any, feel free to type in the chat. I'd love to hear what your pitch pitfalls look like. Does anyone have any guesses? I'll just give it a second for the chat to populate. Pitfalls. It's a good one. I probably should have put that. But yeah, here are a few. There's too many slides. There's people reading straight off the slide decks. There's lack of excitement. There's overselling. Sometimes it's too long. You get drained out. And sometimes there's just no structure. So people are just very confused about what's going on. And yeah, like not thoroughly explaining the problem you're addressing. That's a super big one. And we're definitely going to talk about that, Taylor. And I think there's so many more. This is just like the tip of the iceberg that people will see. And one thing to take away about a good pitch is telling a great story. And like SpongeBob here, storytelling is everything when it comes to a pitch. You have your beginning, your middle, your end, and overall, you want to just think about what will grab the audience's attention and what will keep you engaged. Like right now, if I just started talking about random things, I think you'd kind of be disengaged and uninterested in hearing me talk for the next 20, 30 minutes. That's why it's important to think about your pitch as a story and to grab people's attentions. And the first thing about that is structuring your thoughts. And when it comes to structuring your thoughts, the very first thing is know your audience. And because I say this is because if you don't know who your audience is, it's hard for you to figure out what to say to them. But if you know your audience, you know maybe their background, you know what terms work with them, You understand where they're coming from or what's the best approach to phrase your words, structure your slides. And that's why it's important to evaluate like who is it? Are they product managers? Are they software engineers? Are they senior PMs? Do they have more expertise in a certain topic? And this will help you give you structure, and most importantly, you'll know which information you want to include in your slides, and you'll be able to dissect what information is needed versus what information will be extra and not very like relevant to the slide deck per se. And when you're structuring your thoughts, here are a few questions I ask myself. What is the problem statement and goal? Who did you create it for? Why did you create this product? What will the product do? And how will the product solve the problem? And you ask yourself this is because when you ask yourself what the problem is or what the goal is, you really get an essence of what direction your presentation is going to go in. Because especially with hackathon themes, they can be so broad. For Protothon, for instance, the theme was COVID-19 and the new normal. And with the new normal, there are so many different directions you can take that if I just started talking about my product, people might not understand like what the theme was. And so when you present your problem statement, when you start off thinking about what your product problem is going to solve and what your goal is, you can properly lay down a solid foundation. When you figure out who you're creating this for, you know who the user and you know who the product, which sets the tone for the value proposition. And I know Grace mentioned this in the chat earlier, where she said, oh, like people don't talk about what the value prop is. And that is why it's so important to identify who the user is and what will the product do. And then when it comes to how will the product solve the problem, this is you validating and connecting back to you created this to solve a problem. And these questions at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier, it creates that structure you need to tell your story, to tell what problem your product's trying to solve. And so, like I said, dissecting what information to convey to your audience, it gives direction to your pitch and overall sets the tone for the rest of your presentation. Now let's kind of move on to the slide deck piece. So we kind of talked about the thoughts and structuring those, but now let's kind of move on to the slide deck piece. People always wonder like, hey, like what do I include in my slides? Like how much information is too much information? And so here are some do's and don'ts that I have found very useful in not only like for the Protothon I participated in, but also just in my career when I'm presenting to PMs and other cross-functional groups. Create an agenda. I cannot emphasize how many times I've been in a meeting or been in a Protothon or seen people just start their slides and go right into their topic, and people have no idea what to expect. Your audience wants to know what's going on, what they're listening to, and so just giving a quick rundown of what to expect really, it gives the audience first an understanding of like where you're going, what you're talking about, and it allows them to keep up with when you make transitions in the future. And also, a pro tip, especially if you're participating in a hackathon, chances are you're very tired and fatigued. So creating the agenda gives you, it reiterates the structure for yourself, and it keeps you accountable as well. And what you don't want to do is fill up all your slides with a bunch of bullet points like repeatedly. You don't want it to be all the information that you've dissected so far. But you do want to include our images, charts, key quotes, bolding certain texts here and there to emphasize points, overall to highlight what the message is of that slide and what the relevant topic you're talking about there. Kind of like how I'm dropping in sort of some memes here and there, like if you noticed or not. I do that to make sure like it's more engaging for my audience. So they don't feel like they're just like looking at some sort of lecture in school, because we all know that we zone out in those. And now let's kind of combine the two. So I talked a lot about do's and don'ts of slides. I talked about structuring your thoughts, but now we need to consolidate those two together. And now here's kind of how you structure it. You first think about what's the main topic here. You know, you're thinking about maybe talking about problem, maybe talking about the goal. and then you add maybe 1 to 3 statements that gives that takeaway, and then you'll add some relevant image, and and then alongside that, what you don't see is in your speaker notes, your commentary will tie everything together. So this is where you'll add those 2 statements to really, you have the context on the slide, and now you're pushing the package through. You know what to say, and you want to make sure you deliver that pitch to your audience. And so your slide and commentary work together. They're not separate. They're not 2 different entities. They work together. Your slide is a great tool to reiterate a main point you might say that might be forgotten. It keeps the word in the audience's brain. And then delivery tips, very short. Time yourself, have clear transitions, and don't ramble. I say time yourself because I actually made this mistake where and it can be kind of hectic, especially during a hackathon event where you don't have the time to time yourself, is you might think that your slides are like long enough or short enough, but you'll realize that, oh, I'm already talking 10 minutes and I'm only on halfway through my slides when my demo should be in 8 minutes. So timing yourself can really help you cut down on information that you don't need and really keep yourself accountable for being short and concise. Clear transitions, I mention this because I've seen slides where people will propose an idea or leave a thought and won't close the loop. It's important to say, like, we chose this problem just because XYZ, we did this, instead of saying we chose this problem just because we found that it was this. You want to make sure you close your thoughts, because then people who are listening to you will be like, I didn't really get that, and I'm not sure what they were trying to say. And then what that will do is they'll keep thinking about that confusion they had, and they might lose track of what you're going to say next, or they also might not be able to follow along in the future. So you kind of like lose out on that, and then you also lose on opportunities for other questions they can be asking you if only you close that loop earlier. And don't ramble. This is super easy. I fall subject into this where you feel like you don't know what you're saying, and you're just like lost and you're confused, and then you're like, okay, let me just try to say something really quickly so people maybe like don't lose track of it. I would just recommend taking a pause, take like 5 seconds, and then continue. It's a great way to reset and save yourself from falling down to that rabbit hole, which is why like timing yourself and just having that one practice session at least is super, super important. So I kind of like laid the foundation of what it means to have a good pitch and delivery, structuring. Now I kind of want to go over with my own pitch, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer a few of them now. I have the chat open, so just let me know. If you do have questions, just type them in. I'm more than happy to answer them on what we talked about so far. If not, I will move on to going through my slide deck from last fall, which is what we actually pitched to a team of senior PMs, and they also asked us questions at the end. But this is the exact same slide deck. I made no edits, and I'll just kind of walk through it on how I delivered, and it happened. And so this is my product. Is called Local Biz, and it's your one-stop shop to discover small shop preferences that you can trust. And I introduce myself and my team. Next, I go over through my agenda. So I say we have this problem space. We're going to talk about the problem space. Then we're going to talk about understanding users. Then we're going to talk about a solution for the users and their problems. Then we're going to walk through the design. And finally, we're going to go over the success metrics on what will success look like. And so just to kick things off, 45% of small businesses reported being largely negatively affected by the pandemic. And we see that there's a very definite interest and virality around small businesses, but what is the barrier during this time? And this is the problem we identified. We saw that when we asked people why they haven't shopped small businesses, they had a bunch of reasons that they found Amazon more convenient, or they didn't really know where to start. They weren't sure if the business was viable or not. And this led us to thinking two things in particular. Discoverability and trust were the main concerns. And that leads us to our problem statement. While people do want to support local businesses, it's hard for them to explore business they like and build trusted relationships. Which is why we have the goal, by solving the problem around discoverability and trust with small businesses, we can increase consumer support and satisfaction that will further promote and small business purchases. And so let's look into our user personas for a bit. Meet Jane. Jane's a makeup artist. She enjoys being creative, creating new eye looks, testing out new products, and you can always find her at Sephora. And her as a user her goals revolve around just finding new interesting product recommendations to expand her current collection and invest in brands and businesses that are small-owned with great social causes as their background. But what she finds difficult in accomplishing these is that she doesn't know if she can trust the business or not if a friend hasn't told her about it. It takes a lot of time for her to find a small-owned business if she does do her own research. And then she gets conflicted on which one she should support at the end of the day. And then we have Adam. He's a doctor, he's a humanitarian, he's an avid supporter of such social movements like Black Lives Matter. He spends time volunteering in the community if he's not at the hospital. And sometimes he's just really busy because of COVID-19, so he often uses Amazon to make his life easier, to make quick, trusted decisions. His overall goals revolve around just giving back to the community when he can, with small actions, and just shop for his product needs as quick as possible because he is a doctor and he does not have a lot of time in his hands at times. And his pain points primarily are he doesn't have a lot of time, as I mentioned earlier, but he also struggles to make a purchase decision if there's no product reviews or vetted information to begin with. It goes back to the fact that he wants to shop quickly. So if there's no reviews, he can't really do the extra effort to look into the product beforehand. And so we found that there's this user flow of how people are really looking at products or purchasing from small businesses. And we noticed that there's a lot of the seamless process of shopping at Amazon reduces this flow intensely, which is why people don't want to shop at small businesses, because they have to go through such an intense journey. And that's why discoverability, trust, and tailored recommendations are three areas where we want to spend time to focus on when building a solution, because when we can add those traits to our product idea, we can hopefully solve the user problem. And that comes to our solution. We found that local buzz users on a weekly basis, they can check out small businesses. They can navigate to the website to take a quick quiz to receive personalized recommendations that are verified so users feel at ease. And a reason why we opted for this local biz platform on a website taking a quiz is because we found that our competitors would have lists and they would have a bunch of topics, which was really an oversaturated market that we didn't want to enter. There's already many websites who have long, lengthy lists of small businesses, and we wanted to innovate a solution that eased the entry point into supporting small businesses. And we found that this was a great way to do so. And just to walk through how this would look like, it would have a simple landing page, and users would be able to subscribe and get text message results. And so this is how the journey looks. They can say, the user would be asked if they want to purchase something. They can say yes or no. Then they would look into what they want to purchase today. Is it a face mask, cloth, etc. After that, they can think about what traits they value the most. Is it price? Is it design? Is it delivery? Because everyone has a different preference. Some people want high quality products. Some people want really affordable products that are aesthetic. And so we wanted to account for all of those different types of categories. And they can choose a price range. And then what our platform would do in the end is it would provide a list of different face masks based on the themes. So we have a best overall, best for quick shipping, best for aesthetics. And what this does, it provides the user with a very clear image of these are businesses I can support and I can trust because they'll have a user-like rating, for instance. It'll have a what feature, where was it featured, where was it talked about, and this gives the user just enough information to make that quick decision. We also have the other route, which is say they don't have something in mind. They don't know what product they want, but they know they want to support small businesses. And this is where the user can put in what their interests are, what their preferences are on their hobbies, and find businesses that relate to there. So in this case, we say there's cooking, art, sports as possible interests, preferences on Black-owned, brands that donate, women-owned, and then you get some cool businesses who curate to that taste. You'll see the likes again. You'll see reviews. You'll see a quick description on the price range and what products included, and it allows you to support businesses that you might have not supported before, but now you can maybe buy a new mask or maybe go out to eat sometime. And at the end of the day, like the solution is towards improving discoverability by simplifying the entry point, and because we want to make this like a fun, more accessible via a quiz, it alleviates the concern around trust with user likes and verification checks because the user can clearly see, as shown before, that there are the user likes and there is a reference to articles, and it reduces the level of effort that users would spend previously to create a chart, compare different sites, read different articles. We do that all for them. Now, when we're measuring success, there are a couple of things we want to look at. Two things in particular: user engagement and user retention. But more specifically, we want to look at the percent of users who are opting in for weekly text alerts, because the increase in user subscribing to text will increase the user's interaction with our platform, which can lead to increasing awareness about the small business around them and eventually lead to purchases. The number of thumbs up rating, because this gives a clear indication of whether the user is enjoying the business recommendations we're giving. We also want to validate the fact that consumers are enjoying the recommendations they receive, and so this is a great indicator for that. And it also goes back to the fact that it promotes our original goal is shoppers are supporting small businesses by making more purchases. And then weekly user return rate is another metric for user retention, and that's because we want to observe the rate of interaction. That way we can make improvements in terms of discoverability and trust, which goes back to increasing shopper support and satisfaction as users return to our platform. Because the more users who return to our platform, the more likely we get more businesses being discovered, more businesses being supported. And finally, just for future expansion, we looked into beginning our MVP in select cities and then expanding to the US based on feedback and results, and then partner with businesses for joint events, such as affiliate links, just to increase awareness around our brand, different brands, and then across the platform so people can join in, ask their friends to join in, and just all go back to the ecosystem. And so that is my pitch. And just to sort of sum up everything, I hope that it was helpful. And here are some structure points just to give you a quick summary, is that I gave a quick rundown of the business context. I did the problem and goal. I talked about personas, the value prop, the design and success metrics, and I sort of correlated to which aspects they replicated, which was the introduction, the agenda, define problem space, analyze user, presented solution, and explain what's next. And so this is something you can use to follow your pitch. I highly recommend this model just because it gives you a good overview, but feel free to switch things around as you think a better flow might be better, because this is just one way of structuring. It is by no means the only way to structure a pitch. This is just what I found useful in my repertoire of like presenting and like what's worked for me in the past. And with that, I just have one last takeaway for you all, and that's a strong pitch is a well-crafted story. So no matter what structure you decide to use, whether it's the one I proposed or something you've seen elsewhere, just remember at the end of the day, you want to tell a great story so your users feel hooked and they feel more motivated to buy your product or support it, however, whatever your goal is with the pitch. And with that, does anyone have any questions or clarifications? No? Yes, no? It can be anything about pitch, about my pitch, experience as product. Yes, so let me just go back a bit to my slide deck. But yes, definitely this can be very applicable to any sort of any project, because at the end of the day, I feel that when you're trying to pitch to like some sponsor, for instance, to invest, they need to understand like what the space you're impacting is, what the problem scope is, and how you're solving that. They need to understand the value prop at the end of the day. Like, is this something that they see potential in? And when you convey that idea well, they get hooked. They're like, okay, I want to put my money down. And so for me, the most important aspect are these first four topics, to be completely honest. I feel that if you lay down the business context, the problem, and you say that exists, and then you go on to say like, here's the value prop, like that's half the battle. That's like more than half the battle. The design and success metrics can come later, but you've already identified places where you can bring value to someone. You can increase their presence in the community, and I think that's goes for whatever you're building, like whether you're trying to convince someone to buy a product, or you're creating the product, or you just build something for the sake of building something. It's the number one mistake I see in many pitches, rambling, and I do it too, so I'm not going to say I'm the best at it. I think people lose sight of the structure. So what they'll do is they'll add so many details on like this great design or this great solution that they developed, but they don't talk about what problem they're solving and what value added it is. Because here's the thing, I can talk about this moonshot solution, this great product I'm creating, but is there a value in it if no one needs it? And that's where I think people often lose track of sight of things, where they're so excited to talk about what they built that they forget the why behind it. Like, what is it actually doing, and who is it helping? So I think when people, if they can backtrack a bit and talk about the problem it's solving, and in order to convey the value prop, they get so much more value out of their pitch, and people would find that so much more beneficial. What about technical projects that require you to showcase a particular technology process to someone who's also technical? Right. Or do you mean like when they ask you like how would it function, like technologically speaking? Like it might be an engineer asking you like how would you implement it, Hillman? Just make sure I get your question right. And thanks, Ashna. Yes, it's so easy to jump right into a designer solution. Like I've done that, so don't feel guilty if you've made these mistakes before. I think we're all here to learn. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I remember I was asked a question on implementation. I think it goes by audience, which is why I emphasize them getting to know your audience, because if you're pitching to a sponsor versus if you're pitching to an engineer, you'll know that the engineer will have more questions about implementation, so you'd want to include a piece on that. So I would include in design, like, how would you go about, like, what technologies are going to include? I would include that there. And then I might maybe add, like, a reference to an article or maybe some other technologies you've seen used in similar instances. Like, say I'm doing the quiz, right? I might add in, like, pages on BuzzFeed articles or, like, those BuzzFeed surveys that people do, and say, like, an algorithm resembling, like, this algorithm would be useful in order to execute our project. So that's how I would go about it. I hope that answered your question, by the way. Any more questions? We can talk about product, talk about pitches, talk about bad things, good things. Yes, no? Oof. How did I come up with the idea for local biz? Well, the Protothon theme was the new normal. And so I think a lot of people were thinking about COVID-19 and, like, education. They were thinking about, like, healthcare. And that's a great question. Sorry, love. This is me getting distracted. Like, don't do this in a pitch. But so that's a very broad theme. And I think the first thing is, which I'll go into your question, Ashna, is to sort of just, like, jot down everything you have in mind, because I think it's really hard to, like, limit yourself when you're thinking or already brainstorming. So just put everything on paper, and, like, once you just, like, get all your ideas on paper, then you can start structuring them. I like to, like, use sticky notes. Like, I like writing a lot, so, like, I have, like, a sticky pad, like, right here. And so I might just write ideas on a bunch of Post-its, right? And then what I do is I might, like, organize into buckets, like, by, like, whether it's departments or categories, or how structured is one idea versus another. Because, like, some ideas may be more concrete, while some ideas might need more structure and more help to really be formulated into something we can work with. And once I get to that far, I can really dissect, like, where I see value. That's what I do, number one. Number two, then when I figuring out, like, which idea to work on, is I think about the problems going on. And at that time, for when I was thinking about local biz, I was really interested in the small business space. And it's something I'm actually going to start again doing soon, is I started sharing small businesses on my Instagram stories, because I felt like people didn't know how to discover small businesses. Like, how do I learn about a business? Well, how do I know if it's reliable or not? Like, I even struggled myself to figure out, like, whether I should put money there. But I wanted to support them. So I thought that this problem space was something that people really haven't thought around. And I thought it was unique. And that's kind of why I was really a high proponent of it. And my team also found potential, useful value in solving this problem space. So that's kind of like how I figured out that I wanted to focus there. We had two other ideas. I kind of don't remember what they were now because it was so long ago. I think one was around education, though, and one was around mental health. They were great ideas, but I think the problem space was a little saturated. I think people had already, like, a lot to develop there, and that's kind of where I steered towards the small businesses route, and that's how Local Biz came about. The exact idea of a quiz and texting, it just came kind of, like, sporadically. I think I was thinking about, like, Birdie and, like, Allure and, like, a bunch of skincare stuff, and how it was really cool how it's like you have the best of best aesthetic or best affordable, best high end. And I thought it'd be really cool to see that for, like, small businesses. And that's kind of where, like, and then someone else suggested, like, the quiz and, like, BuzzFeed type surveys. And I think, like, merging that would, like, be really interactive, especially for, like, the college student demographic, or, like, the young adult who is kind of, like, looking for something, like, a little bit more fun. And that's kind of where, like, Local Biz, the solution, came up. And I hope that also answered your question, Ashna, about narrow down your ideas. I think it ultimately just comes down to, like, first putting everything down on paper, then organizing them by some sort of category. I usually do by value and by structure, like how more concrete is one idea versus another. And then I dissect each one on the value add, and then I'll like eliminate some ideas, and then ultimately I'll go for the one I feel most confident about. Shoba, how do you make sure you're calm and relaxed before presentations? Great question. I'm like the type of person who'll be calm like right before, and then sometimes like as soon as the presentation starts, I get super nervous and jittery. I try to drink water, and I try to be cognizant of like talking slower, or like having pauses. So like I'll purposely pause because I'll gather my thoughts, and then I'll start speaking again, so I sound better and I feel like I'm not rambling, or I feel like I'm not talking too fast. So I think like taking pauses is really important. I also try to like listen to music sometimes, like even like for interviews, like I will listen to some hype song or something that just keeps my nerves calm, because I think what it comes down to is feeling comfortable. And when you're comfortable, you're automatically calm and relaxed. So I feel like your environment really matters. And in situations where you might not have that ideally, just be confident in the preparations you made. So like in a hackathon, for instance, you spend 2 days building something from bottom up. You researched it and you've done so much work. So I think be proud of that work you've done. And at the end of the day, that presentation is supposed to be a culmination of the work you've done. So if you've done the work, you have nothing to be really scared of, just to present it. And the worst that can happen is they don't invest in it. That's just one no. That doesn't mean your work's bad. It just means it wasn't ready yet, maybe. And you can always work on it later on, and then potentially someone else finds value in it. Like there are so many product ideas that people reject all the time that we see online. And then people go on and do it their own, and then super successful. So don't be afraid of like, messing up a presentation, or you have to be perfect. Just, I say, believe in the hard work you spent to devise your presentation. And at that point, it's just talking about it. Any other questions? I'm glad this is helpful. I've never used Miro, but I've heard it's really useful. I think we have like about 3 minutes. I want to say the session's 45 minutes. I'm not sure. I need to double check. Yeah, we can talk about anything. I'll ask the sponsors. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad it was helpful. Yeah, strong pitch is a well-crafted story. I think storytelling is one of those skills that takes you very far in a lot of situations. So that's something I'm trying to get better at, but storytelling takes you very, very far. And I guess last but not least, if you want to follow me, no obligations, but feel free to follow me on socials. Just if you're gonna connect with me on LinkedIn, just let me know you're from SacHacks so I know who you are. Just because I'd like to know like where people came from if they're connecting with me. And then I also can follow me on Instagram. But yeah, feel free to follow me there. Thanks, Henrika. Philman, what gets you most excited about? Honestly, I'm really excited about just building something that people want. Like it sounds so basic, but I don't know, there's just like this excitement about bringing something to reality that like you like thought of, or like you saw a need for, and then you like actually created, and then like seeing people use it. It's like, I don't know, I find that so rewarding, It's just like, wow, like you did that and people are using it. And I think that's like the most exciting part about like becoming a PM. It's like, oh, like people, you solve people's problems. And I don't know, I like being a problem solver. Yes, full shameless plug. Tomorrow, Grace and I are hosting a clubhouse room at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. EST. We're going to have candid conversations about our journeys, and it's just going to be a real nice time to chat, like nothing formal. Me and Grace talk super casually, and we hope you all can join. So if we're at Clubhouse, follow me at Ami Patel. I think Grace is just Grace Young, I believe. And if you want to connect with more product people, definitely join Product Buds. I've not regretted it once since I've joined, and I've met people like Grace, which is why we can start something like this Clubhouse tomorrow. Otherwise, I don't think I would have had the courage or even like the instinct to think of something like this. So I'm really grateful for Product Buds in the sense where like I feel that I've gained more confidence presenting to you all. I'm starting my own Clubhouse room, co-hosting with Grace. I mean, amazing people like Henrika and Philman. We were having a great conversation earlier today, so it's just been nice to like chat with so many different people from diverse backgrounds, and then having stories that resemble each other. I think that's what me and Grace want to talk about, our identities and stuff like that. Because even though me and Grace are like two different people from culture backgrounds wise, even though we are similar, where we both starting PMs, there are different our stories align, but they also don't align. And I think we learn from each other. And it's just amazing how that all works out. So yeah, I think I'm going to see. Yeah, I'm not sure. I messaged the moderators, but I'm not sure. But we can chat more. I don't know. I think they're waiting on something. I'm not sure. Yeah, if you found this insightful, let me know. If you didn't, let me know. I'd love to know where to improve. And then I don't know about the slide decks. I think the organizers will let me know if I need to send it or anything like that. Do I know what I'll be working on? Ooh, great question. I'm not sure the exact team yet. I do know that I'm in the Azure AI space. So that's going to be exciting. I've had some experience with machine learning AI in the past, like very, very minor, but it's going to be interesting. I have to brush up my technical skills. Yeah. Light bulbs. Yes, definitely light bulbs. Let me see. I'm gonna hide the screen. You are too kind. God is too kind. I think I can stop sharing. Okay.